Hey y'all, hopefully you're ready to start building out your prototype. This for me is always the most fun part about any design, and especially there's something a little bit different about mobile applications that gets me excited about prototyping and building something out here in Envision. I want to maybe first start by just saying that, right now we're leveraging, or you might be leveraging, the free version of Invision. Now, Invision's great. It's a great tool. There's a lot of great features. As a part of it, as a part of the free account, there's only one active prototype that can be live at one time. Now, the way you can get around that, aside from maybe having to pay, $10 a month and upgrading to having 3 active prototypes, is you can actually archive your project number 2. You can go ahead and archive that and then use that free space, free up 1 extra space to be able to build out your prototype for project number 4. So here I've got my railroad flats example here. It's actually taking up my 1 active space. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and archive that. So if I hover over my my kind of project card here, I click on the overflow menu, I can duplicate, archive, or delete. Now you can always unarchive anything. So you can maybe archive project number 4 if you want to bring project number 2 back to life, if maybe you're demoing it or have an interview or something like that. So you can have as many in the archive, I believe, as you need to. And so I'm just going to archive this project and I'll show you how you can get back to it. If I archive this project, nobody's going to be able to view it. Upgrade to the most recent popular. So, once you archive it, for project number 2, anybody who had access to that link won't be able to have access to it. So I'm going to archive that prototype. And then if I go into this drop down, you can see now I have the archived section. And so I'm going to click on that and you can see that this has been archived here. It looks like one that I was a part of has also been archived. I believe this is James is there. And so that's just a quick way to be able to kind of get around the 1 prototype minimum. You can see these are all the examples from that you added me to. You can be added to as many as you need and want to, but for you specifically to have in your account, you can only have 1 active prototype, unfortunately, with your free account on Envision. So you can always archive it. Hopefully that's helpful. Maybe answers a question of, how do I get it into Envision if I'm already capped out? Just archive that second project, and then you'll be able to spin up a new one. So let's go ahead and spin up a new Envision prototype that's specific for our iPhone size that we're using. So I'm going to just hit the plus sign, and I'm going to create a new prototype, and I'm going to select iPhone here in the second one. And my name is going to be Yakin. That's the name of my app. You'll probably want to just name it whatever your application name is, and I'm going to hit create. Now, this is just kind of the blank slate. This is what we have here to kind of get started. So I'm just going to drag and drop my screens that I exported from Adobe XD and bring them into Envision. So if you remember, I have 2x versions and I have 1x version. So 1x is kind of exported at that specific size of 375 by 812 at that specific resolution and dimension. For those that are marked at 2x, it's going to be double that quality, and I'll show you how you can kind of swap that out if you need to. So let me go ahead and bring that in, and here's my dashboard screen that's in here. I'm just going ahead and kind of multi-select the other screens that I need to bring in. I've got all my 2x versions, and then I also want to bring in my overlays. Now, if you're like me, I kind of like to organize things. And we watched Emily's video. She talked a lot about how organization is great and key. And so I'm just going to title this section. We're going to title this main screens. Now, if you use overlays, you don't have to, but they often add a new kind of, a different dynamic and element to your design. I'm going to use it and maybe walk through, some of the timing animations inside of Envision. And so I'm going to click a new screen or a new section and actually just type in overlays. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my overlay. That's a PNG here of my keyboard. I'm going to drop that down there. So you can see here, I've got, 5 main screens. You're going to want to have 10 by the time you're all said and done. And if you have any overlays or anything like that, that's great, demonstrating the depth of the prototype that you're working on. For me, I also like to keep these kind of organized in the sequential order that I kind of want to navigate to them. So I can imagine first going, from the dashboard to maybe opening the profile, jumping into my trips before having to run through search, and it'll be a combination of these two screens. Let's jump into the actual prototyping feature itself. So here I am in screen number 1, the dashboard. You can see because I exported it at 2x, it actually looks really crisp. Had I exported it at 1x, it might feel a little blurry. Let me actually just kind of do that and show you what that would look like. So let me bring in my 1x version, and I'll kind of just show you what that looks like here. So let's go and drop that in there in between. Looks like it didn't see that it's really blurry now. So exporting it at 2x, that's for retina displays, anything that has a higher pixel density, that 2x is going to be really helpful. So let me actually just drop that right back in there. And you can see it's going to be much crisper. Should be. Anyways, we'll see. Let's give it a second to update here. There we go. You can see it's much crisper on that update. So again, if you find yourself running into some issues with clarity and it being a little blurry, the quality of that, you can tag that to export as 2x, and that's going to be a much crisper photo, a much crisper UI for you there. Like I said, it's going to be also really difficult for us to demonstrate this left-right scroll. So I've just stopped that image right there. The user knows that there would be more. The purpose of the prototype is to maybe give your development partners, or if you're pitching this concept to a potential investor or a client, that they can get the idea of what would happen for the user to be there. So while Invision, we can't pull that off, it's unfortunate. You can actually, we can, for this assignment, and for what we're trying to do for these purposes here in this final assignment, it's okay that it doesn't, you can't demonstrate that kind of left-right scroll. So here you can see I've got my dashboard all set up and ready to go. Let's maybe talk a little bit about this footer real quick. So again, you should be familiar with these modes down here at the bottom. You have preview mode, you've got the build mode, you've got commenting, inspect, and in history mode we won't go into, but you have build mode. So let me jump into build mode here, and you can see it's kind of the entirety here. And as I scroll down, I'll have some options here. I can fix my header. If you have a header that's kind of a full, maybe it's a full color block, or you're doing something different up here, you can actually fix your header. And so if I did that, I could scroll, and my Yakin logo with the profile would stay there. I don't want that to happen in my design, and so I'm actually just going to remove that. I do, however, want to stick the footer. And so what I'll do is I'll just kind of find where my footer should stop at here, the height of my footer. You might want to go back into XD, find out how tall that footer was that you made there, and just bring over the actual pixels. Mine, I think I remember, was 66 pixels tall. You can kind of eyeball it, especially if you have a solid color there. That makes it really easy. Just line it up with that solid color. Mine kind of bleeds to white, and so I don't quite have that unique advantage there. Let me go ahead and stick that there. And now when I jump back in, you can see that my navigation footer at the bottom is sticky there. Let me actually go ahead and do a couple other things while I'm on this page. So I had mentioned whenever you jump into Envision's prototyping tool for mobile applications, you actually get a few maybe new features that you can play around with and use. And so I like to demonstrate maybe what one of those things might be. And so the way you set up a hotspot is exactly the same. You just highlight over the area you want to be tappable in this case, and you get those options. So what I want to do is when the user taps my profile photo, I want it to link to my profile screen. I want it to happen on tap. Again, we're dealing with mobile, and so there's no click or anything like that. I want it to tap. Now you can see I have different options. So imagine, if you want to favorite something and demonstrate that, you can actually have an interaction or a gesture that's double tap. Maybe you want to swipe right or swipe left to do some interactions on your prototypes. You can actually handle all that inside of Envision. So I want it to happen when I tap. I want that tap gesture when I tap the profile. The way I want it to transition into the profile is I want that sort of to push left, or I can have it to slide right or slide left, slide up, slide down. You might just experiment with all these different ones just to see and see what makes sense for you and your prototype. That's the way I learned, and it was really helpful. So I kind of like this slide dissolve. We'll see what that looks like here. So I'm going to select slide dissolve, and I want to hit save. I might also want to include this as a template because my profile appears on every single screen. And so I'm actually going to include this as a template so that I can easily access the profile no matter where I am in my prototype. I'm going to create a new template, call it profile flyout. And I'm going to hit save and save that there. Now let's demonstrate what that looks like. And so again, I've got my footer sticky here. It's stuck to the bottom, and here we'll demonstrate what this looks like. So when the user taps profile, remember it's gonna be a tap gesture, and it's gonna slide out from the right hand side. So let me just see what that looks like. There we go. You see that? That was pretty cool. That slide dissolve feature, I kind of like that. I might tweak it a little bit, but that's okay. Let me just first set up how I get out of this screen. So now the user is in my profile screen. I got to figure out how they get back to where they came from. I'll go back into build mode, and I'll just create a hotspot over my X here. The user's going to close that. So link to the destination. So when the user taps that, I want it to link back to where they came from, link back to the screen, and pretty much close it on the tap gesture. And I want that to maybe be instant. Now I might go back and I might change that slide dissolve. It was a little too fast for me. And so I might just actually we'll do a push right, slide right. Again, you can play with these and just see which one you like. I'm going to include it as a hotspot. Profile flyout. I'm actually going to create a new one and do profile close. I'm going to hit save. So and that's going to happen on every screen then that I needed to. And I'm going to hit save there. So let's see what that looks like. Now when I click this, I want it to go back to where the user came from. Click that. Oh, let's actually go to the screen here. So when I tap on this, you can see it slid out. And now when I close that, it slides back. Let me just make sure that transition feels a little bit cleaner here. I'm going to open this back up, and I can change this to maybe push. I think we did a slide left. So we're going to slide left. And let's just go back. Again, it's going to be a lot of experimentation back and forth until you feel like you've got it right. And we're doing it on the fly. So of course we're having a little fun with it. So I want it when the user taps on my profile for it to slide out. And when they hit the X button, I want it to slide back. So that feels like a really nice gesture, really nice animation there. I can demonstrate what it looks like to open and close, and give the users or give somebody who's kind of viewing this or interacting with it an idea of what would happen when I open my profile and when I close it. So again, like I said, it's going to be a lot of different experimentations to see where you land. Let me jump into the other screen that I know I have ready to go. I have a My Trip screen. So let me go ahead and kind of hotspot that for me. And I'm going to go into when the user taps on that, I want it to go to My Trips. I want it to be sort of a dissolve. Again, it's not, the profile, I can imagine that sliding over because it's kind of positioned on the right-hand side. If you have an arrow pointing left or right, or kind of you're digging into something, then you might want to match where that's going. For a footer or for something at the very bottom, I kind of like to keep it simple in these instances. And so when the user taps it, I want it to dissolve. I'm actually going to include it as a hotspot and make it part of my bottom navigation. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and set up my home screen also here. And let me go ahead and do that. When I go here, I want it to link to my current screen dashboard. I want it to dissolve, use it as part of my hotspot, and I'll select the one I need, bottom profile, hit save. And I believe that's all that I have hooked up for my navigation so far. Again, remember, you have to have 10 for your final, and I've just got these we'll demonstrate here. So once I go into this, then now I should be able to tap on home, and it keeps me here. If I tap on My Trips, it should take me into my Trips page. Now I need to be able to get back to where I came from. So since I have this nice little arrow here, I can actually just highlight it again, and it's going to act very similar to that close button did, so that when I tap on this, I want it to link back to my last screen. And here, since I have that arrow pointing back, I might actually want to mess with that dissolve, or slide left, slide right. So I'll have it slide right. I want it to go from left to right, and I'll use that there. I'll save that there. So now let's demonstrate how to get back. You can see I can just tap. Oh, and again, because I didn't come from that screen, it's not going to do that for me when we actually demo it. So let me actually then go into this. We'll try it right here. So my trips, and it takes me to this screen, and I can kind of interact with it and see it. And let me go back, and there we go. It goes back to where I came from. Now, since I was on this screen, I noticed I didn't have my footer set up. So let me actually go down here, set up my footer. I was at 66 pixels. And now I'll have my footer, and I can make sure that that's sticky to the bottom. Now, I also have some hotspots that I might want to, templates that I might want to add to this page. So because I set up my profile as a hotspot template, I can just jump in here to the very top. You see a couple options here of a hotspot template and a timer. We'll talk about the timer here in a second, because it's a really nice feature that you can maybe experiment and play with. So here, though, I have a couple of templates set up for my hotspot, and I want to add them to this screen. I want to add the profile flyout, and you can see it's going to add that there in the background. And I want to add the bottom navigation, which has those kind of preset options there at the very, very bottom. We'll move those up and see what happens there. All right, so that kind of messed my positioning up there. So let me actually position those relative to the bottom, and we'll see what happens when I do that. Again, some of this is just going to be trial and error, and you're going to be able to kind of set those up as you need to. So let's see that. My trips, jump in, home, and now it's working properly for me. So that's great. And let me just go ahead and back out to my trips. So there I go. So now I've got some of my interactions ready to go. I've got my bottom navigation linked up. I can jump from my trips to home and back. I can actually go from my trips back to home and have that feel really nice. I can open up my profile. I can close it. So I've got a lot of those little interactions there that's really helpful. Let's change that interaction again. We're doing it on the fly, so we'll see what happens here. And let me jump into then when I tap on this, I want to transition into the screen that is my search results. I want it to maybe dissolve to kind of appear better. I thought that I could kind of pull off a combo mode in that and kind of mirror that transition, but that's okay. That'll be fine. Let's see, we'll hit save there. So now when I click on this or tap on this, it's going to bring up my search results. You kind of imagine the user's tapping. My next screen I want to go to from here is into this Chattahoochee River National Water Trail. I want it to, when I click on this, I want it to go to my search results. I want it to be on tap. I kind of want to make it then push or slide left, and I'll hit save. So now I'm going to tap on this, and there it's going to appear. It's going to slide over from right to left. When I do this, I actually want it to go back to the home screen, not to where those search results are at. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard on tap, and we're going to slide right and hit save. All right, let's go through there and see if I actually have it. So we're going to go back to search. Okay, so from here, I've got my profile interaction working. I can open it. I can close it. I can scroll down through here. I can jump into my trips. I actually have one more spot I want to populate for that. My trips, I want it to be tapping on Stones River in Murfreesboro. I want it to jump into my trips. We'll do tap. We'll do a dissolve, and we'll hit save. So from here, I can tap on this. Tap on my trip. You can see my Stones River trip. I can share it with friends. I can see who was a part of it. Jump into any photos. I can kayak it again. Here I can jump back to my trips and go back to home there. I've also got demonstrated my search results there. So I'm typing in Atlanta. I'm searching Chattahoochee, and then I can actually go back to my search. I've also got my trips linked up here. So I can go into my trips, jump back to home, and all that's kind of featured, and that functionality is baked in. All right, one more thing maybe I want to showcase and talk about is how you can actually test this out on your phone. So thank you for bearing with me as I kind of explored some of those interactions there. But as you can see, there are a lot of different things that you can experiment with. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Everything that is a part of this, as far as the transition goes, you can experiment and play with and see what makes the most sense for your screens. Now, some things like here are maybe a little different than maybe you've experimented with before. Let's just see what this pop looks like. So when I tap on the Stones River, it's going to pop to the actual My Trips page, and that's not a bad transition. And so you might experiment with some of that. Overall, I think you all should really enjoy these different types of gestures and transitions, and just have fun and see what makes sense. Now, don't go too over the top. You want to make sure that your users have expectations of what happens when I tap on certain things, but definitely explore these and kind of see what each of these do with some of your interactions that you have set up. All right, let me go ahead and show you how you can actually bring this up on your phone. So I'm going to actually go over here in the top right corner. It's very faint. I'm going to go to SMS mobile. Here I'm going to enter my phone number, and I'm going to hit send. And now I'm going to have a text message that should appear on my phone in any minute now. Here I've got it. And as it comes up, you can see it kind of just appears as a text message. You can see screenshots of my phone, or from my prototype here. I'm going to tap on that. It's going to bring it into my browser, and it's going to load it for me. It's loading my experience, and you can't see that. But here I've got, let's see, let that kind of light kind of transition. You can kind of see it faintly there. I've got my application loaded then on my screen, and I can actually interact with everything that as I normally would if I was expecting this to be an application. So you can get a really good sense or an idea of what this looks like, what it feels like, and get a good kind of sense of what your application's like. Now, Invision also has an app that you can download. So if you downloaded the app, you can actually log in with your credentials that you're using for your Invision account, and it'll bring it up in the Invision app. And so if you do that, then you actually get to experience it as if it were an actual prototype, an actual application. And so here I'm just kind of tapping through, and I'm seeing all these different interactions that I've worked on coming to life here, and I'm able to experience it. And so here I'm on my dashboard view there. You can kind of see that. I can tap into my search results, and you can kind of see the search results pop up. I can tap into then my final full page there. And so again, it's just really cool to be able to demonstrate and get a feel for what your prototype is going to look like. So I would encourage you to send yourself a text from this platform and see what you can do, and see what kind of fun you can have exploring and experimenting with your prototype. Let me just jump back into my dashboard here. There's a few other things that may be helpful to you. You can set a loading screen. So this is that kind of introductory screen. Maybe it's your logo. Maybe you have a screen that's just your logo, a vibrant color, perhaps it would appear. You can drop that into your settings screen or your loading screen. You can also add your own app icon. So you can see that this is functioning at 180 by 180 pixels. So if you jump back into XD, you can create your own custom icon for your application. And I believe Invision will actually store it on your phone screen as an actual device application. For project number 4's final presentation package, a part of that, again, if you're watching the videos, kind of a sneak peek for you, and you've made it this far and are bearing with me, one of the things that are going to be included in that project number 4 package is including an app icon. So we'll walk through that a little bit in the project number 4 overview video, but you can also include it here in this Envision prototype also. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, make sure that you're using the presets in Adobe XD for the iPhone 10, the iPhone X should be 375 pixels wide by 812 pixels tall. You can extend that artboard as much as you need to accommodate the length of your design. You export your screens outside of Adobe XD as 2x, be helpful, get you a higher quality. And any as JPEGs, and any overlays you can export as PNGs to do that. You'll also want to make sure that you're leveraging Apple's iOS XD kit and making some design choices that maybe leverage some out of the box examples that iOS has to offer. That's why they create that. It's an open source product. And so it just makes sure that there's maybe some design best practices and integrity from app to app. My team at work uses that type of kit, and it ensures that our products are kind of built intuitively for the Apple iOS platforms. Once you come into Envision, bring your screens in, make sure that you have a way to get into screens and a way to get out of screens. And you should have a minimum of 10 screens for your final your final click or tappable prototype. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, thank you for bearing with me. I just wanted to go over some of the cool things that Envision has to offer and how you can actually just end up with a great example of a tappable application that you've built from scratch based on user research. I'm so excited for y'all to have walked through that, for this to be your final project. So many of y'all have great portfolio pieces for a future interview for UI UX design. Y'all have done great work for this semester, and I hope that this is just kind of the icing on the cake in our final project. So again, hopefully this is helpful. I'll chat with y'all later, and good luck going into our finals week next week. All right, thanks everybody.